Hi, I'm Raj, and you're watching Rapport. First understanding, then adjustments. That's how we can move forward in a unified world and society. Now, oftentimes, when we hear about a baby being surrendered, we are heartbroken at the conditions at which they are found, be it on the side of the street or, God forbid, in a bin bag. So why then are we against the safety that is being offered? Joining me to delve deeper into this immensely important topic is Millie. Millie, thank you for being here on Rapper.
Oh, thank you so much, Raj, for having me. It's such an honor and such a privilege, and thank you for the work that you do.
Of course, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And I want to know, how did you first join this cause? Because it's one that I can tell you're very passionate about.
Absolutely. Well, I originally first started this cause with a heart to reach teenagers
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy, and it's still something that I'm very much involved
Yeah.
in. Just on Friday, we were at an after-school program in Verulam where we spoke to some youth and to some kids, and we did an art activity and we did a bit of a visualization technique into this lovely lesson that then also turned into a sex ed life skills program. So everything all we had 2.5 hours, so we had time to really be creative and have fun while educating and informing in the heart. But my story is that I was in an unplanned pregnancy when I was a
Mhm.
teenager. And I just want to be able to educate people to make better decisions than what I did and informed decisions for people to know what their options are. Should they, find themselves, well, we hope
Yes.
that they don't find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy, but if they know somebody who is, so that they don't do something that they might regret. Something like illegal abortion, backstreet abortion. So
Mhm.
obviously, risky. We don't want things like that to happen. So, and then within this movement, I came across the baby savers, which
Yeah.
had been around for quite a few years already. Like Door of Hope, for example, in Johannesburg, has been around for many years. And I found out about Baby Saver South Africa. And then that is how I became our baby saver is now 2 years old. Well, just over 2 years old. Um, but yes, a large part of the work that we do is actually trying to prevent teenage pregnancy and
Yeah.
trying to prevent baby abandonment. So we by no means at all are we telling people to come and abandon their babies. In
Yes.
fact, the baby saver has been amazing at helping moms, have a lifeline because they
Yes.
have that number now that they can send a WhatsApp to, and we can then assist them and perhaps recommend a social worker, a social services. Sometimes these moms are just really scared and they just need
Yeah.
some counseling. So that's another service that we provide. And just to know that they're not alone. And then once they have somebody to speak to, and we just speak a little bit about resources and in a very natural and non-judgmental way, of course. They realize actually maybe I can do this. Maybe I can raise my child. Maybe I am strong enough to do this. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want these babies with their moms. We don't actually want them in the saver.
Of
We
course.
only received our first baby through the saver on actually on the 2 year anniversary of the baby saver this year, and we received our second one now in October. But it was quite frustrating for me how people would say to me, "Oh, your baby saver's already a year and a half old and you don't have a baby." I'm like, "Yes, because behind the scenes we are
Yes.
doing a lot of stuff to not have a baby in the baby saver. This is not the goal. We are
Yeah.
trying to keep babies with their families. That is
Mm.
first prize. I mean, obviously there are complicated situations where that is
Yes.
not possible because of mental health or illness or whatever that complicated situation may look like, where it's not always ideal, but
Yeah.
for the most part, where it is ideal, we want children and we want babies with their mothers. We are not encouraging abandonment
Yes.
by any means at all.
Millie, I wanna hop and skip through some of what you've said. And I think that the fact that you start with kids and teens and you educate them and you bring in the sex education, I think that that is the most pivotal part of your project, or one of the many important
Mhm.
parts of what you endeavor to achieve. Because for one thing, it's no secret that sex education in schools and homes is severely lacking.
Mm.
And then, if we take into consideration the amount of teen pregnancy cases that exist, where they are the product of rape, where it is statutory rape, meaning that these are adult men impregnating
Mhm.
young girls, basically. They are children, they are minors, they are underage.
Children, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
we don't, and this is why it's so important that you're offering a non-judgmental space, because this translates
absolutely.
into people feeling safe to come to you. Offering
Mm.
a counseling
Mm.
service is also imperative because
Mm.
emotionally there is a lot that goes into coming to terms with
Absolutely,
your situation,
absolutely.
being at this point where your life is
Mm.
about to change. And of course, the baby savers in themselves, this prevents these stories where it breaks our hearts to see babies abandoned.
Mm.
Because there's a difference between abandoning a
Yeah,
baby and surrendering a baby. And that is something
absolutely,
that
absolutely.
I think people need to understand. Furthermore, I know that you've really driven home the point that we're not encouraging abandonment. We're not
Yes,
saying, give us the
yes.
babies, put them in the box as
No,
such.
of course not. Yes,
We're
yeah.
we're
But
saying, sorry,
this
yeah.
is a claim against us from the DSD, against baby savers, that we are encouraging abandonment and that we are basically denying a child the right to culture. Because
Mm,
then once a child is placed in the saver, they don't know who the biological parents are. So these are the allegations and the reason why we have been involved in the
mm-hmm,
activism for the baby savers, why we've really been trying to, I don't want to say shout because it sounds very demanding and aggressive, but shout in the most positive way that we can, to say that we need the legalization of baby
yes,
savers and not the criminalization. We need a law in this country. We need a safe haven law. We need this because we
yes,
cannot have children dying in unsafe places. It is
mm-hmm,
unthinkable. And these babies die in the most horrific
yeah,
ways. They die of hunger, of dehydration.
the
It's a
element,
slow and horrible, horrible, exactly, of being too hot, too cold. I know of a case with a baby where the baby was bitten so badly by
yeah,
ants, big ants that bit holes in this poor child's back. The child survived, but it is just unthinkable that any child should have to go through that. And it makes absolutely no sense. And majority of people that we speak to, majority of people that comment on social media, majority of people understand the intention of the baby
yes,
saver. They understand and they see how it
mm,
is a good thing. And we want
absolutely.
to collaborate with DSD. We don't want to fight with them.
No,
We want collaboration. And I mean, especially for my organization, Project Life, we love collaboration. Collaboration is the most beautiful thing. We can achieve so much more when we work together. We can achieve so much more with regards to preventing teenage pregnancy. And you
yes,
mentioned teenage pregnancy earlier with regards to stats. Over the past few years, we've looked at stats around 90,000
mm-hmm,
babies that are born from mothers that are between the ages of 10 and 19.
yeah,
90,000. And in this past year, it's gone up. We've
yeah,
had an increase now. And it's just unthinkable. And I mean, I've spoken at schools, I've spoken at events where I have seen 12 and 13-year-old
Yes.
girls that are pregnant. And it is bizarre to me how these little bodies are carrying babies.
Yeah.
And yes, some of it is statutory cases of rape. And yes, there are the cases of rape, but also a lot of it is lack of education,
Yes.
lack of information. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we see this when we present our sexual health program in the schools and at events and at churches and at youth groups. And whoever invites us, we're there. We're there like a bear. We make a plan, when there's an open door, we say yes. So we have seen in the different
Mm.
contexts that we have been in, we have seen how kids are just misinformed. Like,
Yeah.
for example, one of the games we play is a true or false game. And one of the questions we ask is true or false, using two condoms is better than one. And then the kids actually think if they use two condoms, they are going to be more protected. And I mean, this is not a good idea. It's going to cause friction, and the two condoms
Oh,
are
well,
going to
break.
break. So yeah, and there's a lot of myths and a lot of fallacies that
Yes.
people believe about sex. And you also spoke earlier about the fact that within families, people don't always teach sex education, and
They
I
don't.
understand that. As somebody who speaks about this so often, I mean, I get asked the most uncomfortable questions by teenagers, and I don't even blush anymore. I've been doing this for so many years. But I remember when I first started, I remember it is uncomfortable, but the
Yeah.
only way through the discomfort is through the discomfort. And we have
Absolutely.
to have these conversations with our families and with our children. It is so important that our kids know that if they have questions regarding sex, no matter how inappropriate they think it is, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, that they can know that they can come to us and that they can trust our answers. We mustn't lie to our kids. That's
Yes.
the other thing. We mustn't lie to them. We must be honest with them, because if we are not, they are going to listen to these nonsense myths and stories that friends are telling them, or they're going to look something up on the internet. And then, children are also being exposed to pornography.
At
And I
a
mean,
very
that's
young
a
age.
whole other discussion for another day. But we don't want our children exposed to things when they are not ready, when they are too
Yes.
young. We don't want their minds to be perverted by this, because
Yeah.
studies show how extremely addictive it can be to
Yes.
watch pornography as well, and we want our kids to focus on their schoolwork and not be so obsessed with sex the whole time. So that's the other thing, is we really just encourage kids to really think about their hopes and their dreams and their goals. And the
Yeah.
three main things that they can do to really help them in life is, number one, not be in an unplanned pregnancy.
Yes.
Just avoid that situation in the first place. Number two, the friends that they choose, because
Mm-hmm.
studies show us time and time again, like sociology studies, that the five people you spend the most time with, you become like them. So choose your friends wisely. And the third one is, we say, finish school, work hard at your school, get
Yes.
your matric. Do these things, it's so important, not just so that it looks good on your CV, but we know even when you want to get a loan from the bank for a car or to buy a house or whatever, you are more employable. You are more likely to have these amazing opportunities in life if you just have that matric. It is
Yeah.
so important. It's not just about sex ed, although that's like the main thing.
Yes.
It's that we also we want to inspire, we want to motivate people. We want to say, no matter what situation, no matter where you come from, no matter what your story, no matter what your circumstance, you can always rise above anything, and you can have a good and beautiful life. So that's also very much the positive kind of attitude
Hmm.
that we want to portray and to teach people to have as well.
I think that when you say project life, you mean life in various aspects. You mean
Yeah,
life as in
absolutely.
quality of life. You mean life as in
Yeah,
good life decisions. And I think part of the
exactly.
issue that we have in South Africa is that without realizing it, we're actually a very conservative society. And people are of the mindset that should they speak to their children about sex, then it means that they will go out and be sexually active or that they will be
Yeah,
promiscuous.
yeah.
Yet, there are studies internationally that show that children who receive proper, comprehensive, holistic sex education at a younger age end up with lesser teen pregnancies, exposure
Mm,
to STDs, and make better
mm,
life decisions. And when the statistics prove
absolutely.
it, we as a society need to now come around to this fact. And as you've mentioned, when there is an unplanned pregnancy, it can have an impact on your education. And we know that in this current
Absolutely.
day and time, trying to get a job
Mm,
is incredibly hard. And
yeah.
you're gonna need a job in order to survive.
Mm,
And I think
mm,
that the fact that you are educating children also means that they will learn from you and not from their peers who saw something in a movie and think that it makes sense.
mm,
Because the vast
exactly.
majority of ideas that kids have about sex come from their friends. And
Yeah,
when they are going in the direction of searching online, they are going to encounter pornography. And that is
yeah,
dangerous also because it teaches elements of violence. And
yeah,
that is not
yeah,
something to be
yeah,
normalized. I think
yeah.
also when it comes to sex education, the idea of consent is something that is so important because
Oh,
there are
absolutely.
many young
Absolutely.
people who don't
Yeah.
know that coercion is equivalent to
Yes,
rape. And
yes, and that you can say no. And we address the boys, depending on the context and the situation, how many kids we have on the class and so on. Sometimes we actually separate the boys and girls.
mm,
I have somebody that works with me, he is a Zulu pastor, and he's been an incredible asset to Project Life because he speaks Zulu. And
mhm,
sometimes there are scientific questions that I can't answer, and he's just been amazing with regards to that. And he will then have the boys and we separate the boys and the girls, and I speak to the girls and we I speak to them and I say to them, we are princesses, we deserve the best,
yes,
and I say to them, boys sometimes will say anything to get into your pants, ladies, and then they go to their friends and they boast about it, and these girls are shocked that how can this happen, but
yes,
it is
because
it
he
is
said he loved
unfortunately
me.
true. Yeah, because he loved me, and of course, if you love me, you'll sleep with me. That whole that whole manipulation tactic. But then Letu speaks to the boys as men, and he says to them, we have been created as men to protect, to defend, not
Not to
to
defile.
abuse, not to use exactly that. So, to call the boys out and to call the girls out and to say to them, you know what, ladies, we have to act like the beautiful princesses that we are. We don't need to be saying yes to every boy that gives us a little bit of attention. We are more valuable than that, and to really just get that message across. And I think it can be quite effective then to separate the boys and girls if we have
Yes,
the opportunity. But like I said, it depends on the context. We've been doing this for many years, and we've had to learn how to be flexible. We've had
yes,
to learn how to be flexible if we are given a sports field with 400 kids, or if we are given a classroom with 20 kids, no matter what the situation is, or whether it be a church group or a youth group. I've spoken at Muslim events before. Like, I'm game for anything, guys. Let's go.
Well, I think that it's incredible that Project Life has been able to touch so many communities because we always say that the youth is our future and we have
Mm,
to guide and educate them. And I think that this is a part of the reason as to why what you do is so important because when you speak to children at a younger age, They're able to
Mm,
identify this sooner.
mm,
And this is why going into the communities, being at grassroots level, which is what you are at,
mm,
is
mm.
imperative to actually getting somewhere because the vast majority
Yeah.
of children are very uninformed, whether it comes to
Yeah.
anatomy, whether it comes to the physiology of it, people don't know.
Mm,
Even
mm.
girls don't know.
Yeah, you are so right, and we see this with regards to girls and their periods, and we see
Mhm.
it with our WhatsApp counseling line, where girls will message and say, "Oh, I'm a day late for my period," and then it's only a day late. It doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily mean you're pregnant. And for them to just have a little bit of a better understanding with regards to periods and their cycles and
Yeah.
so on is so important. And this is also when it's beneficial to separate the boys and the girls,
Mm.
because it can be somewhat embarrassing for some girls, not all girls, but for some girls to have this spoken about, in front of the boys, but for girls to understand about their cycles. And I think
Mhm.
it's so empowering. I mean, like even like as a woman who's almost 40, like it's so empowering for me to know about my cycle and to know that
Yes.
when you're in the luteal phase, like just before you start your period, you are more vulnerable to being tired, to being a little
Yes.
bit moody, to having those food cravings. You can't train as hard. I'm very into fitness, and I've just learned over the years, and then I started seeing how at different parts of the month your body responds differently. We are
Yes.
not miniature men. We cannot behave the same as men with regards to our energy levels, with regards to how much sleep, our diet, all our things. We are different. We have been
Mm.
created differently. And I think it's so empowering for girls to understand this and to know it's not something shameful. It's not
Yes.
something disgusting to have your periods, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. It's something beautiful because it's what translates to fertility, hopefully for many girls. So for them to be empowered with this knowledge is so important. And then for them, once they understand their cycles, to hopefully also help them to then not get into a situation of an unplanned pregnancy. Because another one of the myths that we've encountered that the youth believe is that if they have sex on their period, that they will not get pregnant. But of course, sperm can live within the female body for up to 4 days. And if a girl or a woman then has to ovulate a little bit earlier, it can then lead to pregnancy as well. So,
Yeah.
we've kind of seen over the years what the gaps are, what these fallacies are, what these myths are that people are believing, and just addressing them and saying, like, drinking castor oil after sex is not going to prevent a
Mm-mm.
pregnancy. And we also very much about the STIs. And when we have
Yes.
spoken about STIs as well, we've had so many kids come to us afterwards and say, I think I've got an STI. And of course, then we say, you need to go to the clinic. But then they go to the clinic, and understandably, the nurses are
Hostile.
not happy, not happy to have a 13-year-old in front of them with a STI. It's understandable because you want to say to these kids, why are you having sex? You're only 13 years old. So then they don't get proper medical treatment always because of
Yes. The
the
stigma that they
stigma
feel.
the stigma and then the negative encounter that they have from the nurses, which I understand, but at the same time we need to also not have these judgmental sort of
Yes.
spaces. We need places of safety, of less judgment, and that's what we try and create with our pregnancy options counseling, so that once we've done the counseling, should a girl or woman still choose to have an abortion, that she feels safe enough to come back to us for post-abortion counseling as well. So
Yes.
we are a pro-life organization, I say that. But that being said, we do not manipulate. We do not say, do not have an abortion, you are murdering your baby. We do not use loaded words
Mhm.
at all. We use scientific words at all times. And we just give the facts of what the different options are if you are in an unplanned pregnancy. And we do it, like I said, in a neutral and safe and
Mm.
non-judgmental enough space that girls and women do come back for post-abortion
Yeah.
counseling if that's what they feel that they need afterwards. And with regards to scientific words as well, it is so important not to use cutesy words when we talk to
Mm-hmm.
our children and say a winky or a cookie or a flower or
Mm.
a whatever. Use the proper scientific terminology. Use penis, use vagina.
Vulva.
It's not uncomfortable. It's another body part. It's like
It's
a
an
finger or an
arm.
eyeball or a nose. Exactly, exactly. But get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You might blush, you might feel like really embarrassed at first, but it's so your kids as well, and then you guys get over it. The first
Yes.
time is going to be hard, but it's so important. It's so important, and education really, I believe, is the key to preventing a lot of these problems, like the unplanned pregnancies, the baby abandonment, and Desmond Tutu actually said such a great thing. He said, there comes a point where we need to stop pulling people out of the river and go upstream and see why they're falling in. And
Yeah.
why are they falling in? Lack of education and awareness. And if people can just know, if they can know, there are over 60 pregnancy help organizations around South Africa. We are one of them. We function as an online pregnancy help organization, part of Pregnancy Help Network. We're also part of another network called Baby Saver South Africa. We're part of two different networks. We're very, very proud to be part of these two networks. And if people had to know that there's baby savers across South Africa, it's so important. If people just knew this, if they knew there's baby savers, if they
Mm-hmm.
knew there's pregnancy help organizations, really, we wouldn't have the sorts of problems that we do. So, yeah, as you can see, I'm very much passionate about this. So yeah,
I
thank you again for the opportunity.
No, look, Amelie, I stand with you in terms of the passion because it's true. The education is what can make a difference.
Mm,
And
mm,
what I really, really admire about your organization is what you've just said about the fact that when the decision needs to be made about a termination of a pregnancy, that is
mm,
not met
mm,
with judgment, that is not met with
mm.
shame
No,
or
no,
stigma, because there
no,
are very real life instances where it's necessary.
absolutely.
And so
Absolutely. And you know
knowing
what?
people are
God
safe,
gave us free will. Whatever people's religious beliefs are, it's we have free will,
yeah.
and the person who is making that decision is the one who has to carry the weight of that decision. Not me, not you, not anybody else who's standing there and judging and
Mm,
telling them what to do, but the person making the decision has to live with it. So
yeah.
if that person feels that they can live with whatever that may be, whether it that they choose to parent, whether they choose foster care, whether they choose adoption, whether they choose baby saver, whatever it is that they decide to do, they have to live with it. Not me, not you, not anybody else but them.
And I think that it's what's really important also is the fact that there are options that
Mm,
you don't need to
mm,
end your life because you feel like you are
mm.
caged in and there's
Yeah,
nothing that you can
yeah,
do. There are so
yeah,
many options available, options with safe
absolutely.
people, safe
Yeah,
spaces where you will
yeah.
be encouraged to proceed with your life. You will be guided with
Mm,
counseling and psychology and assisted in
mm,
taking the decision that's best for you as an individual.
yeah,
And I know
yeah.
that you've had a bit of a legal battle. I know you've been up at the Capitol in a
Yes,
march, taking forth the
yes.
importance of all of these initiatives. And I honestly am so thankful for that because the baby saver is an alternative to babies being eaten
Mm.
alive by dogs because
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
postpartum shock or psychosis, someone was not able to keep their baby, or if they were in an
Mm.
abusive situation or didn't even know that they were pregnant, that there is
Yeah.
now an option that is
Mm.
safe and
Yeah.
judgment free. And that I
Absolutely.
think is so important. Not only are we rescuing those that are in the river, we are going
Mm.
upstream to address
Yes.
what needs seeing
Yeah.
to right there. And Maria, I think this is so amazing. Kudos to you for providing the
Oh,
sex
thank you.
education, taking the difficult questions, and also saving lives along the way. I'm so proud of you
Oh,
and all that you're doing.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor.
And of course, to anybody that's watching, I would like to encourage you to find out where your nearest baby saver is, to look into the
Yes.
60 organizations, and to have
Yep.
that information stored at the back of your mind, on
Mm.
your phone, in a
Yeah.
notebook somewhere, so that should you
Yeah.
need it, or should someone that you know need it, then it's right
Mm.
there. It's available. You don't
And
need to, yeah.
especially for people who work with youth, whether it be teachers or sports coaches, or youth pastors, or whatever that context looks like. If you're working with youth,
Mhm.
to talk about these things. And if you want more information, please make contact. You can just reach out to me, and to my team, on Instagram or Facebook. And Facebook also has a Facebook free mode, which means that it's a great way for people without data
Resources,
to be
yeah.
able to message if they are in an unplanned pregnancy. So that's really helpful as well. But yeah, please reach out. I think that's a lot quicker than me giving you the Project Life number on WhatsApp. Um, just reach out, just send a DM to Project Life Instagram or Facebook, Project Life SA, if you have any questions, and would love to hook you up with the information to just raise more awareness and just have more of these conversations. And I don't want to say hard conversations, because they're not hard conversations.
Yeah.
They're only hard